Does everybody knows what does it mean, a unicorn for investors? I guess you do. So in the next 20 minutes, I would like to share with you my journey of searching for unicorns. So it starts back in the 90s. I was working for Israel's largest holding company, and it was just when the first high-tech bubble began to swell, you know, and that was even before the iconic book, Startup Nation, that you all know about and heard about. It was even before it was written. The company I worked for was called Core, and they were traded in the New York Stock Exchange, and they quickly realized the potential of the new and growing high-tech sector. So they decided to establish the first corporate venture capital in Israel and to allocate $100 million in order to invest in startups. Back then, I was heavily involved in managing very complicated traditional investments, mainly in the low-tech sector. So I was very happy to have the opportunity to join the new and exciting sector. I joined the fund as what we called back then a deal maker. And I want to tell you guys, I was absolutely amazed by what I saw. Day in, day out, I was meeting these very, very, very young entrepreneurs with very big dreams who came and entered the room sometimes with a very mediocre presentation, didn't have any business experience, didn't have any business model, and many times left the room with $1 million check. For me, that was an amazing phenomenon. I wasn't used to that. For example, a guy entered the room and he was asking us to invest $1 million in his company, and he wanted his money in order to buy a name for his company, Camelot, $1 million for a name. Needless to say that this company was closed 12 months later. Or another very nice young man who entered the room and tried to convince us that toilets for cats is going to be a bigger business than Apple. And he wanted us to invest millions of dollars in debts. But the entrepreneurs were not the only one who shocked me. I must say that I was also puzzled by the venture capital investors that I met. I saw very experienced and smart investors willing to invest money in big dreams, in companies that didn't have any income, any business model, as long as the dream that they saw was big and the cash flow was even bigger. I don't know if you're aware of the fact, but back in 2000, a cash flow was a way to measure success of a company. So that was really an amazing journey. And then came 2002. I don't know if all of you remember, but 2002 was the year in which the first high-tech bubble burst. You see the point over there in the bottom. And everything collapsed. For me personally, it created an opportunity. There were many changes in the company that I worked for, and I was asked to become the CEO of this fund. And that was a whole new ballgame, really. The same entrepreneurs, very young people, that came and sold us these amazing dreams and were earning $20,000, $30,000, and I'm talking about 20 years ago, per month, at the age of 24 or 23, disappeared the minute we asked them to cut down their salary or to dilute their holdings in the company. As shareholders, we were left confused, and we had to deal with firing employees, we had to deal with selling equipment, we had to deal with figuring out what to do with technology that actually had no value at all sometimes. I was managing this, okay, sorry. I was doing it for a couple of years, until 2008. I was working very hard, I was flying high. I managed to return the investment, not more than that to the investors. But then I was 42, my kids were older, I became tired, and I was lucky. I had the opportunity to take some time off. And I decided, to spend some time to figure out what is the next thing I want to do. I took a break and I started, to look around and to meet people, whatever the things that you do when you're in this situation. And I want to tell you the context of that specific period. That was 2008. I don't know if you remember that was a big financial crisis, right? And Israel was going through a transition period for a decade then. It moved over a short period of time from being a very, very socialist country, ultra-socialist country, I must say, to becoming an ultra-capitalist country. With all the advantages and the disadvantages that come with this situation, right? Also, Israel joined the OECD, the organization that compares all the developed countries, and data started to flow in, comparative data started to flow in. And this is when it became very clear that Israel is actually comprised of two countries. One Israel, the startup nation Israel, with a lot of innovation and prosperity and money. And then this second Israel that you see here, some of the data, Israel that suffers from high poverty rates. I think here it's even first, I don't know, high poverty rate, and with very, very big gaps between poor and rich, very close to Mexico, by the way, when you look at the data, even today. I started to think about this situation, unique situation of a country within a country. And I started to think, why is it that the usual suspects, the people that are supposed to take care of these social gaps, governments and philanthropists, are not doing it, and actually we are in this situation. You're probably thinking, how did I all of a sudden became so interested in poverty and social gaps? I mean, I'm an investor, right? Well, I want to share you a little bit of my life. So actually, I grew up in Jerusalem. My father, that you see here in the picture, was a sculptor. My mother was a painter. Our socioeconomic situation was not amazing. And actually, there was nothing mainstream or ordinary by the way I grew up. And I think that as an outsider, it makes it easier for you to identify with other outsiders. So I think that for me, it was always clear, deep inside my bones, that social disparity is not something that belongs to others, but it's the responsibility of all of us. So, I had a new mission. I wanted to figure out and to understand why all of this innovation and money that I see in the high-tech sector is not being used in order to solve our social problems in Israel. And I started to investigate this issue and to learn about it, as I usually do. And then it became even clearer to me. I managed to understand the question even better as an investor. I realized that actually there is a problem when you're looking into investing into companies or ventures or ideas that want to solve social problems. And the problem for investor is simply, and I'm really simplifying it, that the risk-reward equation is simply not balancing. You can find money to anything as long as the risk and the reward attached to it are balancing. When it's not balancing, investors are not investing. So I said to myself, okay, now I need to find a way, a formula, in order to solve this equation and to balance it, in order to bring this money to solve the social gaps. And actually, I started to search for a new kind of unicorns, green unicorns or different unicorns, and I called them social impact unicorns. I wanted to see if I can find a social impact unicorn as an investor and to incentivize myself and other investors to invest in that. So, you know, ideas are just ideas and you can do nothing with them, and you need to team up with people and actually to do something about it, not just to think about it. So I teamed up with a group of people, it's called IVN Ventures. It's a group of people, veterans from the high-tech that made their money in the high-tech. And they also realized the social disparity in Israel society and thought that their business experience could help them and could help solve the problem. So I felt, you know, bingo. I found the right partners to do this thing that we wanted to do. And what we decided to do first, we wanted to prove a point. We wanted to prove a point about how risky it is to invest in social businesses, in businesses that are solving social problems. So we established a small fund. The money came from philanthropists at the beginning. And we wanted to prove three things in this fund. Number one, we wanted to prove that it's not that risky. And therefore, we decided to lend money to the ventures and to see that they are able to return the fund to us. Number two, we wanted to prove that the social ventures, with that time, can become self-sustained, that they will not need philanthropy over and over again, that they can deal with their own issues. And number three, we wanted to make sure that these are indeed social businesses, so we wanted them to measure their impact, their social impact. To our investors, the philanthropists, we promised something that was very attractive to them. We said, you know, you're not getting your money back because you donated it, right? But the fund that we are establishing, and we call it Tandem, is going to be an evergreen fund, okay? The money is going to be reinvested again and again and again. And for each dollar that you invest in this fund, we promise you that in 10 years it will create impact of at least $2.50 because the money will come back, we will invest it again, and so forth. So it was easy to raise the money. And then I started my second journey, this time meeting the entrepreneurs, the social entrepreneurs. And this time it was a completely different journey. It was an amazing journey for me. I met so many passionate, impressive, enthusiastic people, and I would like to share some of the stories that I met and some of the ventures that I saw. So, for example, I met this young lady over there, Neta. And Neta was a criminal prosecutor, imagine. And she traveled the world, and she realized that there is a very strong connection between economic development and tourism. That if you create tourism in a poor place, it develops from an economic point of view. So she decided to team up with a local and to open the first guest house in the poorest Arab village in Israel. By the way, an hour ago, I got a WhatsApp and they told me that they just now opened a hub in this village. It's completely unbelievable. Or I met Rabbi David Liebe over there, and he saw a problem. You know, in Israel there are yeshiva students, and sometimes they want and they need to work. But in Israel, it's not so, it's not prestigious for them to work. And they don't want to drop off the yeshiva. So he said, what if I will open inside the yeshiva a workshop that they will learn how to be computer scientists, and additionally they will work as computer programmers, etc. And that's exactly what he did. And now there are 3 branches of Ravtech, the company opened in Israel. Another person that I met was Nachman over there. Nachman dedicated his life to assist people with disabilities to find accessories to help them to cope with everyday activity. He quickly realized that there are many needs that are not met by current solutions of companies. So he created a group of volunteers, you see them over there, and those volunteers were designers and engineers, and they built ad hoc solutions for the people with disabilities. But Nachman told me, there is a big problem because I have all of these solutions that were built and are used by 1 or 2 people, or 2 persons, but if I want to create a product and to sell it into the market, I don't have the funds, I cannot find the funds to do it, because the philanthropists are not investing in R&D, and in business development, and in marketing, and the investors are not willing to invest because this is too risky for them, the market is too small. So I'm left with all of these solutions in the cupboard, and actually nobody is using it. That was a shame, and he was right. I mean, from investor point of view, it was very risky to invest in it. So back then I started to teach, and this is what brings me to Tel Aviv University. I started to teach in Tel Aviv University, and I had this workshop of brilliant MBA students, and we were dealing with consulting to different companies. And I thought, what if I come with Nachman challenge to the students, and I will ask them to find the right financial structure to help solve Nachman's problem. And indeed, I took 5 of my most brilliant students, I think, yes, you can see them here. And we sat together, and after a year of working, an additional year of convincing, we managed to convince the Israel Innovation Authority and Social Security to allocate specific funds and to be invested in companies that develop solutions and services to people with disabilities that represent less than 5% of the market. By doing so, actually, what they did is they reduced dramatically the risk, because now the investment, the seed investment risk and the small market risk is being reduced by the government, who is putting like the seed money. And after they did that, actually what happened is that many, dozens of the products that were dusted in Nachman's room are now presented to the market. And actually, a couple of months ago, even, I don't know if you have it here, but the Sharks, the TV show of the investors, so the Sharks also invested in one of Nachman's products. So that's amazing, and that shows how, if you build the right business model, you can finance these solutions, even if the market is small. So, for us in IVN, actually, by the way, we invested also in Nachman after doing that, and we were very happy. The Tandem Fund that I told you about, so we made 15 investments, out of which 14 still exist. And I think we proved everything that we wanted to prove. I mean, all of them returned the money. By the way, also the one that was closed returned the money. All of them don't need philanthropy anymore. All of them create very measurable impact. And one more thing that I realized, that although most of the entrepreneurs that we invested in this fund suffered from financial setbacks during the years that we were working with them, actually none of them disappeared. All the entrepreneurs stayed and coped with the situation. And actually there are researchers that are showing that social businesses are more resilient than regular businesses when the times are hard. So I think that this is another criteria for investors. So for us in IBA, IVN was a success, and we decided to move to the next step. And there's a last story that I want to share with you that has to do with our last part. So this story is the story of Dr. Gil Winch that you see over here. Gil is a psychologist, and he decided to dedicate his life to understand why is it that people with disabilities, even intelligent, educated people, are not working. And he examined the situation, and he realized that where they are working is usually in family businesses. And he figured out that there is something about the way family businesses are run that allow them to work and to be, to prosper. And he decided to open a company for profit that will demonstrate his model, the model that he built. So he opened a call center, and he decided to employ only people with disabilities that nobody else is willing to employ, and at a salary of the market, not to give them anything below the market rate for this specific work. I met Gil, and again, the same problem with Gil that we saw in Nachman. Nobody was willing to invest in his company. The philanthropists are not investing in companies for profit. The investors didn't want to invest because it was early stage and they didn't know what the risk attached to that. And also were afraid that if you will fire people or things like that, they don't want to attach themselves to something like that. And the government was also a little bit suspicious about the intentions. So again, I went to my students and we started to think, what we can do in order to help him. And in one of our classes, I told the students the story of how venture capital in Israel was created and actually allowed the high-tech sector to grow. I don't know if you know the story, I will be very brief. But back in the 80s, actually, the Israeli high-tech suffered from the same situation. There was no money, the risk was not clear, venture capitalists were not willing to invest in this sector. So the government of Israel was thinking out of the box and did very smart thing. And they decided to create what they call the initiative, Yozma, it's called in Hebrew, funds. They allocated $100 million to be invested in 10 new funds. And what they asked from the managers of the fund is that on each $10 million that the government is putting, they will find additional $10 million from investors. The deal that they offered the investors was interesting. They said, if the fund is successful, so you, the investors, get first your money back, plus interest, and only then the government takes their funds. But if the fund is not successful, God forbid, so then the government will write off their investment, and only then the investors will need to write off their money. So it means that they reduce the risk for the investors by 50%. And under these terms, it was very easy to find money, and the funds were very successful, and the rest is history. Israel became a startup nation and everything that you know. So my students asked, why cannot we create a social yozma? The same thing to social businesses. Good idea. So I went to the government with that idea, and actually it took me a couple of years, but at the end, the government loved the idea so much that they thought it's their own idea, actually, and that's the best thing that you can do. You sell something and somebody thinks that he made it or he thought of it. And indeed, the government established 2 Yozma funds. They allocated 50 million shekels for that. Half of the money came from the government, quarter from philanthropists, but quarter came from regular investors. And again, it proved that if you build the right finance, and it was very easy to raise this money. I mean, we really raised it in days. So it was again very clear to me that if you create the right financial structure, if you manage to balance this risk-reward equation, so money will come. So today, the Tandem Fund, IVN, went to the tender and we won it. and we invested in Gil. So first I have to tell you what happened with Gil. So we invested in Gil. We invested almost 2 million shekels. And today, 4 years later, Gil company, Kol Yechol, is profitable. They employ 220 people with disabilities. All are getting paid regular salary. And he is about to open a new branch in the United States because they really like the idea and the formula and they want to duplicate it. As for the fund, the Tandem Fund, so it invested in 10 ventures and it already gave back twice money to its investors. And I'm talking only over 4 years, which is amazing, even for regular funds. So, I'm sorry. So, are we finished? Are we done? No. I think that there's still a lot to be done in order to bring more deal flow and more money. But I think that we managed to prove that there is a key to solve this problem. As for myself, I guess you're wondering if after 30 years that I spent chasing unicorns, regular unicorns, and social unicorns, did I find the right unicorn, one that I'm really proud of? Well, I must tell you that in this journey that I just shared with you, I decided that I stopped chasing unicorns. And now I think I'm chasing zebras. And the reason that I'm chasing zebras is because, first of all, they're not that rare. Second, they are working in teams, in cooperation. And third, and most importantly, they are real. They are for real. So thank you very much for bearing with me.